Hey guys, welcome back to lesson number 9 of the Operations on the Real Numbers course. I'm Mrs. Cofield, and today's lesson is applications of subtraction. But before we go too far, I have some serious business I have to talk to y'all about. Let me tell y'all, the big wigs that sit at the top of the math corps, like the main execs and all those, high positions and stuff, they starting to cost us a lot of paper. Like dough, like a lot of money. So in order to keep the camp running, we had to sell ads. So you're going to be seeing a couple ads throughout this process, starting today. All right? It's unfortunate, but we got to make it happen for you guys. So stay tuned, and I'll see you right after this message. Oh, yeah, welcome back. Did you like those messages? I'm telling you, our sponsors. Yeah. Well, let's jump right in, okay? So let's talk about last time. Now, last time that we met, we talked about subtraction. Remember what we said about subtraction? That there was this main principle, right? I wonder if anybody out there remembers the main principle of subtraction. If not, let's read it together. The only things you can ever subtract are the same things. When you subtract the same things, you get the same things. Yeah. Now that sounds a lot like the main principle of addition that we talked about, a few lessons back. So that's good. Make sure that you keep that in mind as we move forward with today's applications of subtraction. Now, let's go straight into the examples so that you can see what I mean. Boom! Here we go. There are two main applications of subtraction. Two main applications of subtraction. And they are finding the difference and two, finding the result of a decrease. Again, that's finding the difference and finding the result of a decrease. Now I want you guys, as you've written that down, think about what we're saying as we move forward into these examples, okay? Difference or decrease. Example number 1. The temperatures in 2 cities are currently 67 and 1/10 degrees Fahrenheit and 23 and 72/100 degrees Fahrenheit. What is the difference of the temperatures? Well, let's think about what I said. We said there's a difference and then there's a decrease. Now there's a key word in this problem that tells us what we're looking for. Yes, that key word is difference. So in order to find a difference between two numbers, what you usually do is you take a larger number and you subtract the smaller number. So if we were to do that in this case, as we compare the temperatures in the 2 cities, we would end up with 67.1 degrees, take away 23.72 degrees. Now, if you look at those numbers again, you would notice these are decimals. And we talked before about how you subtract decimals. How do you subtract decimals? You guessed it. All you have to do is line up the decimal places. It's so simple, right? It's going to go really, really smoothly as long as those decimal places are lined up. So here we go. Here's what it would look like. There's your 67.1, and you're going to take away 23.72. Interesting. Now, what do you notice about the hundredths place in that first number, 67.1? You notice that there's nothing there, right? Now, a mistake that people sometimes make is that they just go ahead and just drop that 2. But we don't want to do that, right? What we want to do is add a 0 to the end. Now, the reason being, zeros in the back, when it comes to decimals, they don't matter. You can add as many zeros to the back of the decimal without changing its actual value. So what we end up with now is 67 and 10 hundredths, take away 23 and 72 hundredths. Now this is important because remember, when you're subtracting decimals, you must subtract tenths from tenths, hundredths from hundredths, so forth and so on, okay? So now everything is in place, and don't forget to borrow. Now when you subtract, you end up with 43.38. In other words, 43 and 38 hundredths. Now, we always want to make sure that we answer the question that they're asking us, and also to put the degrees, like in this case. So, what is the difference of the temperatures? The difference in the temperatures is 43 and 38 hundredths degrees Fahrenheit. In a beautiful sentence. Well done. All right, let's try another example. A person had been running 3.5 miles every day. If he decreased that by 2/3 of a mile, how many miles a day was he running then? Now, I want you guys to look for the key word in this problem that tells us what we are to do. Yes, that key word is decreased. So that's the indication that the number went down some, okay? So let's start with our larger value, and we're going to subtract the smaller value because it went down by 2/3 of a mile. So we have 3.5 take away 2/3. Now, as we look at this type of number, what type of numbers are we working with here? We have a mixed number and we have a fraction. Now, how do you subtract using mixed numbers? You guessed it, we don't. We don't play around with those mixed numbers. We got to get rid of that guy. And the way we do that is by converting it to a fraction. So in order to subtract mixed numbers, we convert them to fractions. Let's go ahead and do that, all right? Because we're not playing with this guy. We don't have time for that. So let's take a moment and convert, okay? So the number that we're converting is 3.5. That's our mixed number. When we convert it, we do 2 times 3, that's 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. That's our numerator. The denominator stays the same. That's 2. We end up with 7 halves. Now we're in business, right? So we converted it, and our real subtraction problem is 7 halves take away 2/3. Now we're ready to rock and roll, right? So what next? Can we subtract? We have halves and thirds. Remember, the only things we can ever subtract are the same things. And when we subtract the same things, we get the same things. Are halves and thirds the same things? Of course not. So what do? We have to find a common denominator, right? We do that by multiplying the denominators by one another, and that's 2 times 3, and it gives us 6. We now have our denominator. Now we can go ahead and convert the rest of this problem. Let's convert the fractions. So we're going to convert them into sixths, and now we have 7 halves times 3/3, which gives us 21 sixths, and then we have 2/3 times 2 halves, which gives us 4 sixths. So now we have converted those numbers, and we can subtract them because they are the same things. 21 sixths take away 4 sixths. Now what's 21 take away 4? We're looking at the numerator now, okay? 21 take away 4? That's just 17. So 17 sixths is our new fraction. But if we wanted to convert it back to a mixed number, that number is now 2 5 sixths. Let's make sure we answer the question though. We did a great job as we did this mathematics, but let's go back and answer the problem. So, how many miles a day was he running then? We just discovered it was 17 sixths or 2 5 sixths. And when you answer the question, he ran 2 5 sixths miles a day. Good work. Let's keep going, team. You guys are rocking and rolling. A person was looking at 2 dresses. The more expensive dress costs $59.98. The less expensive dress costs $21.98. How much more does the more expensive dress cost? Now, we've been talking about these 2 types, difference and decrease. Do you see either of those words in this question? Difference or decrease? No. Neither one of those words are there, right? So what they do ask us is, how much more does the more expensive dress cost? That's another way of asking us to compare the prices. Compare the prices. In other words, to find a difference. So notice there's more than one way that you can ask someone to find a difference. Well, in this case, it was by the phrase, how much more does the more expensive dress cost? Okay, how much more? Well, let's set that problem up. We know it's subtraction as we're looking for the difference between these two prices. So we have our 59.98 take away 21.98. And again, we're subtracting decimals. So we know what we have to do. Line up those decimal places, right? So if we line it up, here's what our problem looks like. And subtraction is just simple. Again, take away tenths from tenths, hundredths from hundredths, so on and so forth, because place value is very important. We end up with 38.00. 38.00. Now remember, we're talking about money here. And if you know money, you know if you have 38 and 0 cents, because that's what those numbers behind the decimal represents, right? In this case, 0 cents. We don't tell people we have 0 cents. We can just say $38, okay? So the more expensive dress costs $38 more. That's not too bad. All right, let's move forward. A game show contestant had 200 points and then answered a question wrong and lost 500 points. How many points did he have then? Wow. First of all, let me say, I know he must have been mad about losing those 500 points. Woo! He must have been steaming. Okay, so we've been talking about difference and decrease. Look through this question. Do you see anything about a difference or a decrease in this problem? Well, we don't see those words directly, but there has to be some indication that we're going to subtract, right? Let's look for any other keywords that could tell us we're going to subtract. Yes, that word lost. He lost 500 points. Losing 500 points does not mean that those points went up. Not at all, right? We know that means those points went down. They went way down in this case. So if we were to set this problem up, here's what it would look like. We have the number we started with, 200 points. Take away that whole 500 points. Now, if we look at it again, we know now that we are subtracting integers. Integers, right? So how do we subtract integers? Remember, subtraction is really addition of the opposite. Wow. So if we set that up, subtraction is addition of the opposite. What is the opposite of 500? Yes, the opposite of 500 is negative 500. Absolutely right. So now we're in a position to add. And we know how to add, right? Remember, we can look at it in different ways, right? Some of y'all, you're thinking N's and P's in the battle that they have going on. Or you can just see it by just like evaluating in your head. You see that number. But if you don't, remember, I have 2 questions you can ask yourself. And those questions are, which do you have more of? Well, we can obviously see that we have way more negatives. They took over in this round, right? They win, unfortunately. And then how many more? So now we're going to find that difference, right? How many more negatives are there than positives? So we're going to do 500 take away 200, and we end up with that 300. So again, our answer is going to be negative, and we know that it's going to be 300, and that gives us negative 300. So now, always make sure that you're answering the question. How many points did he have then? Well, he now has negative 300 points. Wah, wah, wah. I would hate to be in his shoes. We're trying to win the game, right? Well, on that note, winning team, I want you guys to recap that there are 2 main applications of subtraction. And those 2 main applications are finding the difference and finding the result of a decrease. Make sure that you have that in your notes and that you continue to practice that and that you can identify it in the different forms that it comes in those real world applications. Because it's not always going to say difference or decrease. It might say lost or went down and different things like that, okay? Or how many more than. So that's all you need to know for today. I hope this helps you guys with your assignment and that you can do excellently at it. I'm rooting for you. And I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful day, y'all, and keep up the great work. Peace.